taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. It's March 15th, 2019, the day after Pi Day. I hope everybody had a fantastic Pi Day full of nerdy math jokes. I posted one on the Discord. It didn't get any kind of reaction at all. Am I the only one that finds those things amusing? Anyway, this is the Friday edition of the show. My name is Asheninity, and I'm here as always with Cybsinian.
My girlfriend is the square root of minus 100. Meaning that, of course, she is a perfect 10.
In that she...
But purely imaginary.
I was hoping you were going there. All right, if you're listening live this morning, please say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And don't forget to slam that like button and also subscribe to tell us on YouTube that you appreciate this weekly content. If you're listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we're glad you're here as well. We appreciate the likes and follows. It does take us a day or two to get the podcast up to the audio platform. So if you want to get the latest info sooner, we encourage you to hit the link in the description to subscribe to the Triple S League YouTube channel. We're going to dive into talking about more fun stuff here. So,
we've got Lady Gaga Cyberpunk news. This is
lots
amazing.
of Cyberpunk 2077 news to talk about, or at least some very fascinating little tidbits of information and some possible teases of things to come. We're also going to talk about some more news regarding the Epic Store, the Epic Games Store. We've had another game announced as an Epic exclusive, and it's an interesting case in that it was a crowdfunded game, and they've actually gone back on some of their crowdfunding promises in order to make this deal with the Epic Store. So it's really interesting. So we're going to talk a bit about why these game companies are making this decision and what Epic is offering them that's making it worthwhile. But then you had told me just before we got on here that the Left 4 Dead spiritual successor is being picked up by Warner Brothers.
Well, it's this is a very interesting case where basically Warner Brothers has picked up a studio and they're working on a game that is exactly what basically Left 4 Dead was. And the Left 4 Dead series hasn't seen any movement, so this new series is going to pick this up and seemingly carry the torch, so to speak. Now, this is interesting and fascinating in a number of ways, but overall, the biggest thing here is that, there's a lot of people who are upset about this because these are the same people who brought us, that horrendous Shadows of Mordor, where it's like, hey, we're going to give you loot boxes inside a single-player, non-multiplayer game. It's like, what? I have to use loot boxes in order to progress, and it was just horrendous. So
yeah.
So imagine this now: you're logging in to play this new game, and you're about to be bit by a zombie, and it's like, oh, hey, here's a microtransaction. Avoid the zombie bite by trying a loot box, and this loot box will either give you a cure, or it will prevent the bite, or hey, maybe it'll spawn 5 more zombies on you. It's
as if you're playing a tabletop game, Dungeons and Dragons or something, some kind of tabletop game, maybe Cyberpunk, and you have to like toss in a quarter each time you roll the dice. The dungeon master requires a payment. Insert coin.
Well, we laugh about it, but I mean, this is what they did in Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not stretching this at all. It was extremely difficult to finish the game without spending any dollars on microtransaction. These are directly game affecting microtransactions, and it's sick and disgusting. So where they take this stuff, because unlike EA that, hasn't learned their lesson, but they're at least conscious of the fact that people hate them so much. This company doesn't give a rat's butt about what you hate, period. They look at Shadow of Mordor, and if it flops, it's a tax write-off. If it's a success, then they've made $1 billion. And that's how they look at these things. So they don't care, like just like movies, just like the TV shows that they make and that they create. They have zero interest in trying to make a good product for you, the consumer. What they're interested in is profit only, because it doesn't matter if the movie or the game flops. It's a tax write-off, and they just walk away like nothing happened.
Right. No artistry in it. It's all business for the corporations that are overseeing these things. Obviously, for the people actually on the ground making the game, making the movie, there's an artistry to that, and so, we like to promote the games and companies that are actually encouraging the artistry of these things. But yeah, I mean, you're right. On the business side, it's just about the dollars and cents, and beyond that, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's the disturbing thing about it, is because this isn't. Now, we don't know for sure if they're even moving in this direction. So we'll see. They might have an invested interest to make this game good, and we don't really know it's how it's going to be structured for microtransactions or not. So we can assume that they're probably going to be in there. They've added to every other game that they've worked on recently. They seem to be, they seem to be chasing this concept as much as they can. They might want to try and like simmer it a little bit. I just don't know why these companies just don't offer, like, fine, do microtransactions, but at least give us something that's worth collecting. Like, seriously. It's like, so playing a lot of The Division, actually I spent way too much time playing it yesterday. And I've been collecting, they throw you they throw you some free keys every once in a while. So I'm gathering up these keys, and I'm going to do probably as soon as my live stream starts, I'll showcase what opening several of them gives you.
Oh, free loot boxes that they give you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And overall, I've got to say that I'm not impressed by any of their apparel stuff, any of their store stuff. A lot of their paints are kind of not interesting. So but at the same time, it's like, what can you do, right? So
right. Well, I mean, you'd think if they're asking people to pay for these things, and especially if they're going to randomize it in the form of loot box, you would think that they would actually have some quality stuff in there. And I don't think I think we should expect that of them. I think we should hold these companies' feet to the fire and either not buy this stuff or say, hey, why are you giving me this crap? But anyway, this is where there's an advantage to a company, where they're able to, a developer publishing their own games, if they have the ability to do so. Not all of them do, but when it comes to a company like CD Projekt Red, there's a distinct advantage in them being able to have publishing control over their own title and even their own storefront, which is interesting. And so, with that clever segue, we're going to talk about Cyberpunk 2077. So, some interesting things happening. Apparently, Lady Gaga has been seen around the CD Projekt Red studios, and according to a source close to the project, she apparently did some motion capture, some kind of a performance for them. Now, this is from a single source that is from a French website, actugaming.net, and so I've got the translated version of it up here. We have, because it's in French, so I've got the Google Translate version. We have just learned from sources close to the studio that a collaboration between Lady Gaga and CD Projekt Red is on the horizon for Cyberpunk 2077. The artist was seen at the Polish studio, and several details follow. And so, yes, again, according to this source, she was potentially there to perform a motion capture performance, basically. Just sort of being redundant there, but she was there to do some mocap. And this is really interesting.
This is not the first time we've had a connection between CDPR and Lady Gaga. So
this is interesting because then on we reported on this several months ago, but back, actually, I guess it would have been more, yeah, several months ago.
Way more than a year ago.
Back in September of 2018, Cyberpunk 2077, their Twitter account posted a reply to some random Lady Gaga tweet from 2012, which was just a string of random characters in this Lady Gaga tweet. But it's from November 6th, 2012, which is actually, interestingly, a very significant date in my life. I'm not going to say why, but I was like, huh, that's interesting. But anyway, so back in November of 2012, she posts this random string of characters, and then 6 years later, Cyberpunk 2077 comes along and posts a reply to it saying, of course we will. And everyone's like, what? What are you talking about? So that led to some speculation last year about a collaboration between Cyberpunk and Lady Gaga, and now we've got this report from somebody who claims to be on the inside, who is saying, well, she was there, and is potentially involved in the project.
Yep. And so Lady Gaga has been pretty... She incorporates a lot of sci-fi stuff, for sure. She incorporates a lot of things into the kind of sci-fi, cyberpunkish aspects into the product.
Yeah, this it seems right up her alley. This whole world where people, mod themselves to, to extreme degrees, seems just eclectic enough for her tastes.
Now I'm going through stuff because this was a pretty fast breaking story, as far as like digging for info goes. There's some I'm linking just kind of a it's really interesting. It's really interesting. She's done mocap before. I just linked something to Ash here. She's done mocap before. There's a video on her Instagram where she's doing some motion capture. This was back in December. So this is not something that she would not be familiar with. So let's talk about the science of it, right? Don't click on it. It plays music.
Right. What was this for? Do you know where
this
she is
was
in this?
Well, I'm not sure. I think it was for one of her recent music videos where she was doing this.
Okay.
It does appear as if it's a standardized place. I don't know if but let's just dive into this. Is it possible for her to show up at the CDPR studio, get into a mocap suit, do a performance capture, and then jet off with very few people knowing about it? The answer to that is yes. She's familiar with the technology. She's done it before. And if this has been something that they had been planning for a while, then this is completely possible. Let's run some speculation. Let's speculate and assume that Lady Gaga got approached a while ago to write some sci-fi-ish cyberpunk music for this sci-fi cyberpunkish game that she is in some way familiar with. And let's say that this really interested her because it's a genre, a series, a piece of work and content that she's not only very familiar with but enjoys very much. So would it be possible for her to work on a project, a song, or maybe a performance of some sort to showcase to the studio in a product that they would add to the game? So they add this to the game, they add this to the launch. Within the story and the lore, there's this character that is a pop star, and that you end up doing or watching, or you're there, or maybe it's on a screen or on a holovid, or maybe it's part of a brain dance where you encounter this and you are watching this very closely, or watching this artist in this in the cyberpunk world do their thing, and then they have that as either a song or a dance piece or something like that. and that plays into the lore and the role of the character, and is kind of a significant art piece for this game. Is is that possible? Is that something that CDPR and she would do? Yes. The answer to that is yes, yes, and yes. They have always been interested in getting more. Yes, the porn star from the original trailer, for example. The working with people to try and create new music. They're working with several very high-profile names there. People who travel in the circles that would have been very easy for them to not just get a message to Lady Gaga, but actually talk to her over dinner. So this is another strong possibility because of the people that they have involved in the music writing right now. Overall, this is exactly something that she would be interested in. This is exactly something that the studio would be interested in, and has made their interest known quite well on this, for the fact that they've tweeted at her directly, something that they don't do very often. They're not, they're not a hot topic of replies and responses as far as like looking for people, looking for major celebrities to constantly retweet. They're very, very, very particular about that kind of stuff. And like we saw with this last video last picture that they just uploaded to their Twitter, it's also very confusing because you don't exactly know what's going on here. If, for example, this has happened, and if, for example, she's about to release a music video that she had worked on beforehand locally to her studio and to her where she does this kind of stuff, and then they just needed to get to CDPR, sign some papers, hand over a physical copy of some data, and then actually do a mocap. Is that all possible, and would it have worked out in this particular way? And the answer to all of that stuff is yes, yes, and yes. This is highly, and in fact, I would say most likely what has happened here. I have not confirmed with anybody at CDPR. I've not confirmed with some of the other sources and contacts that I use. But I can say, for the most part, that this definitely fits the bill. And this is something that we've been expecting for a little bit now. We've been expecting a major artist to release some content around this game for a while. And we had always suspected that it would be Lady Gaga, and that we've always suspected that this would be this would be her primary goal, of creating some new content, creating a new music video, and then releasing it for the release of this particular game. And that none of this is surprising, that none of this is something that we didn't, see coming, basically. So yeah, this is kind of more or less where we're at. The news is very good. It may fit in with this image that they just posted on their Twitter.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that in a sec. There's they posted
and
a really weird GIF.
Yeah, and we've been saying for a long time we're gonna expect a trickle of information, and then there's gonna be a point at which a dam is gonna break, and we're gonna get a lot of info very quickly, and then we're gonna get even more info after that. If this game is releasing, and I've said this again and again and again, if this game is releasing, which I believe it is, good 60% chance that it's going to release this year. If it's releasing this year, if their timeline is not being halted at all, if everything is moving as smoothly as they want it to, they will release it this year. Because releasing a product when it's ready, sooner rather than later, is always preferable. In fact, I can think of very few scenarios where somebody says, hey, we can get a product out this year for a really good time window for release. Should we release it now? Nah, let's wait a little while. That never happens. That never happens, okay? So there's very clearly some thought being put into this. There's very clearly an attempt being made to make sure that this goes off without a hitch. And I think in this particular moment, what we're seeing is, if this game is coming out this year, we will get a bigger leak sometime between now and E3, the E3 Microsoft Showcase. We're going to get something sizable, something tasty, but not something that shows much. And a music video from Pop Store would fit really well into this. Some internal leaks would fit the bill built. Anything to keep the news going on this, anything to keep people interested in this, anything to keep people coming back again and again, building up hype slowly but measurably. It's like a graph chart. You don't want your interest to dip. If you look at stocks over the last 50 years, and you see good stocks where it's it starts out really low and it builds the slow, steady curve. And what you don't want to have happen is you don't want any sharp drops to happen. You want it to continue at this slow, steady pace, and you want it to pick up and jump and keep on building. And that's what you want. You don't want any of these big drops, so they're not going to release something and then drop it. I really don't think that if this game wasn't within their internal target data, if they didn't think that they could get this game out this year or next year, I very much doubt we would have seen the trailer last year. In fact, I'm almost positive we would not have seen the trailer last year. They're just not the studio to go flaunting something that they know that they cannot do. The announcement trailer is different when you're working on a product, because that was mostly an advertisement to developers to join them to help them create this game, and to announce their partnership with Mike. Primarily because it would have been found out if they had not mentioned anything, if that first teaser trailer had never ever happened. At some point, somebody would have been able to dig up the connection between Mike Pondsmith and CDPR. And so very clearly it behooves them to put this information out at that moment. But what we have here is we have this progression of information, started with the trailer drop, started with these things that they've been doing on Twitter and circulating this info and kind of dropping hints here and there, and it's progressively getting more. There's no doubt in my mind, and there shouldn't be anybody who can look at facts and logic equally. There's no doubt in my mind that when you're looking at everything that's been going on, when you see the interviews, and then when you see the leaks, and when we get leaks, and when other people get leaks, it's or when there's accidental leaks, or when there's an accidental, information drop of some kind, where you can't sit back and look at this and go, yes, I can see where this is headed. Obviously, this is one step towards, this is gradual information release that's building for a big release reveal and a big release date. And I think when we look at this, we can tell that, again, if this game is due out this year, we would have seen the trailer last year. We would see progression of leaks and information and little tidbits coming to the surface over the last couple of months, which we've seen. Since last E3, we've had a steady but continual drip of information. It's interesting that information comes to us at certain times when things are lining up to be revealed on an interview or something like that. And this is just a constant 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4. And we're building up to this. So we're going to get something, I think, fairly sizable, but not something that's... it's like something of interest, not something of consequence. Something of consequence would be them divulging major characters, plot, that kind of stuff, big gameplay. We're not going to see that before E3. I think what we're going to see before E3 is going to be more internal stuff, more side stuff that's not showing the game in and of itself, but that is rather showing off tidbits here and there, letting this stuff gradually build.
That a famous pop star might be a character in the game. That's really interesting. And there's some speculation going on in the chat right now about who Lady Gaga might be in the game.
Well, it's Lizzie Wizzy, obviously.
Well,
obviously.
That I had that thought, but then at the same time, Lizzie Wizzy seems like such a prominent character that it would seem harder to keep a lid on her involvement if she was playing a character of that prominence. Do you not think?
Nope. It would be. It's a perfect fit. You have a character who's not a main character for the plot. She's not going to have 10 hours of dialogue. She might have an hour of dialogue, but she's not going to have 10 hours of dialogue. So this is going to be a main character that shows up, does some stuff, does some cool stuff, has some conversations with you. Very not like a companion character. Companion character is going to involve weeks and weeks of audio recording. A main character like this is going to result in about a day, maybe 2 of recording, and then that's about it. And Lizzie Wizzy, it's interesting to note that Lizzie is a very, very similar play to Lady, actually. They both start with an L. They have a single they have the Y at the end, and then excluding the Y, you have a single vowel inside the word, and then you have ZZ versus DD, and
Sorry, what?
I mean, this. I know you're thinking I'm stretching. I'm not. To me, this makes sense. Okay, when I see Lady Gaga versus Lizzie Wizzy, I see I see a character that has a lot of similarity. Yes, that's what I'm getting at. There's a lot of similarity. Now, again, you might say, "Oh, that's stretching." Maybe it may just be a happy coincidence, just like our information on E3 that we put out weeks before anybody else put out there, saying that we had received a positive nod and confirm that there is something hidden within the message, and that the message seems to point at a date for this summer. And then a bunch of people said that's ridiculous, that's wishful thinking. And then a few days later, they confirmed that they're going to be there for that date. And you're sitting there thinking, well, gee, I mean, I guess it could just be a happy coincidence. I mean, it's a hell of a coincidence. It's almost as if you took numbers that could have been anything and made them fit to a particular thing, where the chances outside of that, the chances within, like, in my job, I do a lot of assessment and a lot of analyzing of data. One of the things you ask is, what's the chances for this to naturally occur? What's the chances for a date in a year, of which there is several hundred? What is the chances for that one date to match up with another numerical number that's put out by the same company for a different thing at about the same time? What's the chances of that normally? About 1 to about 1 billion. It's really, really, really impossible to have that naturally occur without somebody actually intending it to. Of course that happens, but in the vast majority of cases, if it walks like a duck and if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Mm-hmm. Well, in that case, it makes sense. But the similarities between the name, considering that the names came about independently of one another many years ago, that I find a bit more of a stretch. I think.
Yes,
it's just a coincidence.
There is,
but
at
they
the same
would look
time,
at Lady
if you have
Gaga,
a character,
like that,
if you have a, well, here, let me explain this to you. You have a character called Lizzie Wizzy. You have this big fancy artist who's going by Lady Gaga. She gets contacted by somebody, a friend of a friend, or maybe maybe them directly trying to hire them, saying, "Here's what we're interested. Are you interested in recording a song? You'd be playing the role of Lizzie Wizzy." She's going to look at that and she's going to say, "Oh, what? I'm Lady Gaga. She's Lizzie Wizzy. There's this cute little connection here."
They don't even sound the same. Sorry, dude. I gotta.
Yeah, you're bailing on it.
I'm not buying that aspect of it, but
okay.
But anyway,
well,
like,
I'm saying
that she would be playing that role. I definitely
yes.
agree that would be a good fit. Yeah.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that basically, this is the stuff that I look at and I try to build.
Mm-hmm.
I try to make this work as much as I can. So
yeah,
that's all I'm saying. And yeah.
So some more comments here. Adventure Mode says, but what about Kanye? Yeah, we definitely we covered Kanye's potential involvement in a previous podcast. There was an interesting Twitter connection between Kanye West and Cyberpunk 2077 as well. So I mean, that'll be interesting to see if he has some kind of a role to play in the music of the game, or perhaps playing a character as well. We have nothing on that at this point, but you never know. Notional points out the soundtrack of Cyberpunk 2077 is performed by characters from the game's lore. That's from PCGamesN.com. 273 days ago. So that is, yeah, that's true. So that would lead one to conclude that the characters in, like, whoever is performing the songs for the game will also be playing characters in the game, whether that's a large or a small role.
Yeah.
So I mean, we know that Johnny Silverhand, of course, is a famous lore character that's in the game, or at least has music in the game. And yeah, Lizzie Wizzy as well. Adventure Mode says, I can even see them doing the GTA thing and having her play the voice of one of the DJs. I mean, that's possible. You wouldn't need motion capture for that, though, in most cases. So, let's see. This is pretty huge if true. They're clearly aiming for going big on this game. Yes, they absolutely are.
Yeah, we've known that they are sinking a lot of money into this game, not just for the production, but also for the advertising. They have lined up partners to advertise the crap out of this game. It is definitely possible for this to be a new console release. It is definitely something that has probably both Sony and Microsoft really, really wishing, because if they were to sell this game, not on the existing consoles, but on the next consoles, if they were to launch this with this, this would be huge sales. This would be huge sales, especially if this game just smashes it out of the park. So there is, of course, which is why I say it's not a guarantee that it's coming out this year. I'm not willing to say it, because there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of interest to get this game as a release product. However, that would be somewhat abusive to the fans, and I don't think CDPR is interested in that. I don't think that's something that they care for. I think they realize where the consoles are and what they've been doing, and the kind of bad influence that they've had on some gaming communities and some of the game developers as well. And that overall, it's not something that they would play to. I really don't think it would, which is why I continually say that I suspect that it will be out this year. And that why I don't think they're going to play, Sony's game, so to speak. So that's I don't think that they would eagerly throw away their goodwill with the community to say, hey, we're going to push this to a release, and if you want to play this game, sorry, you're going to have to buy this on one of the new consoles. Of course they're going to release it to PC as well, but it's like for console players, which is a big market out there, you're telling them you can't play this game until you buy a new console. I don't think that they would be willing to do that, because there's a lot of people who do not buy a new console who can't afford the new console for well over a year or two after its release. That's why you have so many people buying it a year or two after release, because they have to save up for this kind of stuff. They have to plan for it. They have to do some stuff to get some extra money. And this is what I think we're going to see with this. I think that the community, I think CDPR is looking at the community and saying, I think it's going to be best if we release this on existing console, then we do a secondary release on the new console when it comes out with some added DLC or some new content that really is going to be able to show off the horsepower of the new machines. But the other thing too is that why I don't think that this is going to release for that, they've spent so long making this thing run so well on existing consoles, it would be a shame to not release it on the new on the older consoles. Sorry, I messed that up. They've put so much effort into making sure that this would release on existing consoles that I don't think they're going to say, nah, we'll just forget about it, we'll just release it on new consoles. I really don't think that's the case. And I think that when they knew that they were in the technical side of revamping this game a few years ago, they knew exactly when the next console was being slated for. They have, of course they're a major publisher, a renowned publisher. Of course they're talking to people at Sony and Microsoft saying, when is your ETA? When are you estimating that your next console is going to be out? Give us some ballpark so that we can work with this. Which is why I've said again and again and again, when you hear rumors about consoles, most of the time they're right. Most of the time they're right, because this information is not a secret that's kept in a vault. It's passed around to developers. We're looking at currently we're looking at for 2021, 2022, 2020. This is our ballpark figure. We have some rumors and some research is going on for some R&D for some new graphical technology. This may or may not push the date by about a year or two. This is information that is readily passed around, that is readily communicated with, and that analysts like myself get a hold of all the time. It's not something to stake your on. It's not something to throw out there unless you're and there's a particular, we've talked about some bad analysts on the show before, and there are some people who do not know what they're doing, who take information like this and run with it in some random direction that's moronic and stupid. But at the same time, this is information that we get, and this is information that is easy for us to find because this is information that a lot of people need to know. When's the new console coming? Well, just from being in the industry in general, you could tell about from, say, 3 years ago that we're expecting it in anywhere between 3 to 6 years. You just knew that. You knew that if you were any partially good at your job in any way, shape, or form. 3 years ago, you're looking at the time scale going, okay, the absolute soonest we can see this is about 3 years from now, probably anywhere between that and 6 years. Like, that's just what you know. And so, in this case, I don't think CDPR would have revamped the engine, would have put all the effort into, making sure that the game is just running as smooth as melted butter on the existing consoles if they knew 100% or within like a 90% range that for sure this game was going to be coming out for the next console generation period. If they knew that, I don't think they would have invested their time, because that would have been really, 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 really stupid. That would have been just if they knew 90% chance that they were not going to be releasing on the current console generation, and that they can just take that 10% chance and basically kick it out the door by saying, well, okay, it doesn't matter when the consoles come out, we'll just wait for it. If that was the case, then they would not have invested the enormous amount of time and energy to make sure that this thing ran as smooth as it possibly could on the existing console. And I cannot stress this enough. And I cannot give you a nod enough. I know enough about this company, and I know enough about what's going on the inner circles, that I know that they spent a lot of time and a lot of resources and a lot of focus saying, get this to run on the current consoles as best as you can, put in extra hours, extra manpower, do everything you can to make sure that this game runs as smooth as butter on this new console, on the existing consoles. That we will worry about the new consoles later. Right now, we need to make sure that this thing runs on the existing consoles. You could say, well, that's just them doing their due diligence, and you'd be insane. Because this company does not run based off of random feelings. If you look at all of their work thus far, they're very, especially as they've grown through. In the first Witcher 1, Witcher 2, maybe you could say that. Maybe. But this is not Witcher 1, Witcher 2. This is not the same company. This company has grown. They have refined themselves. Adam and the other people at the top have just refined their ability to be very, very precise, very, very intelligent, very, very confident in their plan to make sure that this works that everything that's working in that company moves in exactly the direction that they want it to. So again, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, it's a duck. So kind of just hold that information in and we'll kind of run with it. Speaking of ducks,
based on that, I think I have an uncle who's a duck. But anyway, continue.
Yes. Well, I want to continue with this duck thing very briefly. Ash, what mouse walks on two legs?
What mouse walks on two legs?
Yeah.
Mickey on stilts? I don't know. What?
Mickey Mouse walks on. What duck walks on two legs?
Donald and Daffy.
And all ducks walk on two legs.
There's
Get it together,
two
man.
For one. Ah, damn it. I'm too tired for this, man. That is
okay,
true.
Okay. So let's change to this picture that they put out.
Yeah, speaking of
we've alluded
characters.
to it a lot. Yeah, we've alluded to a lot. So describe the image, what we're seeing.
So
it's not just a picture. It's like a short video.
It's an animated GIF. Well, it's a GIF of
it's a GIF.
It looks like it's from some like ancient Doctor Who episode or something like that. Is kind of what it looks like. Anyway,
But
so
it's not.
It's not.
It's not. And you know why it's not is because you don't lose the frame rate that you get in older videos. The popcorn, the drink, it's all just a little too high res for what you'd have from something that would be this obscure and this old.
Well, let's talk about that in a sec. I mean, the Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter account posted this yesterday, and it is basically an animated GIF of some really old, it's like what people imagined robots were going to be like in the future about 80 years ago. So it's this boxy silver robot, and he pulls off the top of his head and then puts it under his arm and spits a bunch of popcorn out of his arm and into the top of his head to use it like a serving bowl. And then he pulls a champagne glass or whatever those are called, a champagne flute or something, out of his other arm, and then the front of his compartment opens up and there's cold beers inside, so he pulls one out, pops the lid off, and pours it into the glass. So it's almost like it's an imaginative, oh, we could build this robot that is like a bartender or something. He's also got a turntable. I don't know if you noticed that. He's also playing a record on the top of his head. Now, you're saying the frame rate, it's running at a pretty low frame rate.
Yes.
You're saying
it is a GIF, but what I'm saying is that it appears to be something that's a little bit more. I don't think this is just a random thing that they went, "Hey, doesn't this look cool?" That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I think that there's definitely some sort of meaning behind it, but
yeah.
So just to clarify, were you suggesting that this was something they created or something that's been made more recently?
Not necessarily. I'm saying that's a possibility because I don't know where this is from. I don't see some of the image burn that you often get in something that's that's literally from the time where this would have been made.
Well, I don't know if you would be able to tell, considering it's the color depth and the resolution has been severely toned down because it's a GIF. Yeah. I'm not sure if you'd be able to tell or not.
There it is from a GIF's website. So I mean, this is not. I don't think this was made for. Like I said, I really doubt this was made for CDPR.
It says Schaefer beer. I'm going to look that up here. Just a quick. That's what the logo says. So it appears to be. It almost looks like it's a commercial for some old beer company, or perhaps current beer company. If anyone's heard of Schaefer beer, let me know.
But this is just really interesting in the way that this has come about, because again, what this is you can say a lot of things about what they tweet and what they don't tweet. They respond to a lot of generalized tweets. They're pretty they do like utilizing memes, so that's good, right? So overall, I think that there is I think this. I don't know. I don't think there's as much to read into it as some of the other stuff that they've posted. Obviously, they do like posting memes and they do love posting GIFs. This is something that they do all the time. They did the dog hugging one a little while ago, and they've done all kinds of other ones where I mean, overall, that's what they do. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I wouldn't be scanning this looking for numbers hidden in it or hidden messages.
Yeah, no,
in the
there's nothing. There's nothing like that. Like I said, I really
the fact
doubt
that it's this old robot, this. There's clearly some kind of a connection. I mean, this sort of ancient sci-fi robot concept. You juxtapose that with Cyberpunk's sort of transhumanistic, cyberware and things like that. You know what? If this robot's not a character in the game now, there's a little part of me that's going to be disappointed.
Yeah. But overall, on the quality, and I really want to drop this on the quality. So on the quality, most GIFs are they're GIF quality, right? But this one seems that they went out of their way to really pick this one out of the available ones to really make it, to really make it look great, and to have some kind of a meaning. And I think it's like, grab your popcorn, grab your drink, because something's coming soon.
That could be it. Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to hint at here.
Plus with the the robot theme that absolutely.
They posted another one on the 12th that's really interesting, where they're replying to somebody, and it's just like, this guy's like giving the eyebrows, so this is this is what they do. So they love teasing and tweaking this kind of stuff all day long. Like they're really active on the channel by doing this. So
they like to they like to respond without giving you any actual concrete information.
Yeah. So, and again, it's like they love doing this stuff. They sent out a message on the 8th, where it was their 2077th tweet, and it was kind of cool. They
my
did
first
a really
thought
awesome
was like, what
thing.
poor sucker at the company had to go through and count. Is there a way to just? Oh yeah. Never mind. I'm an idiot. It's right there. I'm having one of those days, folks. Not gonna lie, just having one of those days, if you know what I mean. That and that sounded like innuendo, and it wasn't supposed to. That's great. So I'm gonna shut up now and let Cyb talk about this next topic, which is going to be the some more info about the Epic Games Store and the latest game that's announced to be an Epic Games Store exclusive. But before we do that, just want to thank everybody who is watching and who is active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S fans about all the things we love to talk about and stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join, and be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. Sword Sister says, "I sound like I need a drink." It's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll go to my local neighborhood bartending robot and get a nice pint of Schaefer beer or something like that with some popcorn. Anyway, so Epic Games Store. So the latest Epic Games exclusive that we've heard about is an interesting one. It's a game called Phoenix Point. It is from the developer.
It's the original. It's the original creator of the XCOM.
Yeah, from the original
games.
creator of the XCOM series. I've seen it called a spiritual successor to XCOM. Not sure how accurate that is, but
it's fairly accurate.
It's also very interesting in the fact that this was a crowdfunded project, and it was not crowdfunded on a typical crowdfunding platform. It was crowdfunded on a site called Fig, which is interesting in that in addition to simply supporting the project, you can actually invest in projects with the hope of a return from them. So it's interesting in that it's a different kind of crowdfunding platform. But on top of that, there are some broken promises that have happened here as a result of this game going Epic exclusive. And so I'm going to let
there's a lot of info to pull from this.
Mm-hmm. Well,
there's a lot of info.
I'll let you just take it away from here.
Yeah. So the first thing that you can pull from this is that Epic is very serious about trying to become a major competitor. They're so serious that they're willing to go to a developer, say, "Hey, I know you promised a bunch of stuff, and that by going back on your promises, there's actually a chance that you could lose all your money and be sued. We're willing to give you enough money to cover that lawsuit, in addition to basically giving you enough money to run your company for the next several years. Well, and if you release your game exclusively on our platform."
According to the reporting on this from Bellular News, they apparently got enough from this deal that they could refund all of their backers and still come out ahead. That is an insane thought. That they spent however long, months, years, crowdfunding this project. Epic Games comes along and says, "Hey, we're going to cut you this deal if you sign exclusively with us for 1 year." Yeah. And it's enough money. It's more money than they got through crowdfunding. That's just insane to me.
Well, it speaks to the fact that if big business wants to get involved in this stuff, which There's an announcement coming tomorrow from Google. There's a whole bunch of other things that are coming up on the docket. We've got, Amazon is launching their first big game. There's a ton of stuff that is coming down the pipeline from major companies because they see, too late for a lot of them, that gaming is actually a huge industry. It took gaming, gaming took over certain aspects of the entertainment industry one by one, and now it's like gotten to the point where it's taking over pretty much everything, and it's slated to become the number one entertainment medium in the entire world, where just single IPs in the industry are worth more than entire other industries put together. Like, think about that for a minute, all right? That the Grand Theft Auto series as a whole is worth more money than I think Marvel movies are. So let that sink in for a moment. That's insane. But it's also true. That there is a point at which these companies have totally missed the bus on this stuff. The train came, went, packed up, got upgraded to a speed train, got upgraded again to a floating, super highway mega train, got upgraded to a freaking space train that can go to a different planet, and now the big companies are like, oh, hey, can we get in on that? And the amount of money that they can pour into some of these projects is ridiculous and insane. So, yeah, so it's no big shock to me to look at Epic basically walking in with a check that allows this company to say, all right, thanks for all the support, community, but, we're actually good. And if you refuse to buy this game on Epic because it's on Epic, just for that reason alone, well, it turns out that's actually okay because we made more than enough money to compensate us for that loss. Mm-hmm. That's shocking. But it also speaks of a problem that Epic has right now, and that is just a general just generally not caring about the community. Why do I say that? And this has been brought up by a couple other people. I'm not the first person to point this out. But this is absolutely true. There's a lot of people who are looking at what Epic's doing and saying, Epic, you're really not interested in making gamers happy, are you? You don't give a rat's butt what we think and how we react to the games and the content that's already out there.
Which is funny, because for the longest time it seemed like they were really working hard with Fortnite and that community. Yeah. And they still are, as far as we can tell. They're still putting out really great... They still are. They're putting out really great... but, this is a different side of the company. It's not the people designing Fortnite who are designing the Epic Store, but it does seem like they are trying to strong-arm their way into the marketplace, as opposed to offering a good product and just letting people come to them. They're trying to strong-arm their way in by having these exclusivity deals with certain games that basically makes it so that the consumer has no choice but go to the Epic Store to get them. Mm-hmm. Instead of just offering the Epic Store, making it better than, say, Steam, or offering something that Steam doesn't have and then saying, come get it from us. No, we have to go use their crappy storefront because that's the only place we can get this specific game. So it just seems like a rotten way to do it. And
yeah, and that's what a lot of people are raising flags about, saying, look, apparently you just don't care about what we, the gamers, want. We, the gamers, are saying, hey, Epic, before you come in and start taking games away from the libraries that we have been building for years, for decade now, well over a decade now, before you come in and you just start, taking a poo-poo on all this stuff, maybe you could, work on getting your product up to where it should be. Having reviews, having videos, having a dang checkout bag. Like, they don't even have some
like
basic features.
Yeah,
they don't even have a shopping cart feature in a product that is a sales platform. How do you not even have that? How do you not have the ability to play videos on your site? How do you not have the ability to do any of this stuff that is standard in everything else. And we talked about this at great length about my frustration with them trying to order the Division on Tuesday. It was a nightmare dealing with their customer service. It was a solid week of stupid back and forth with a very, very lippy public service PR or not PR
customer service
technician, customer service agent. And that's mind-boggling to me that they could just move in this direction and say, screw it. We're gonna power grab everything now as much as we can, and we don't even know if this is going to be a success, but we're locking these companies down into these deals, which again, I really hope that they really gave a lot of money to Metro, because Metro really lost out here. Like they as far as that game being popularized, it's not right now. It has some of the lowest numbers for the series, and at the moment, because we don't actually see the hard numbers, but from what we're seeing from streams and what we're seeing from general community appeal, this has less appeal than the last Metro game. In fact, this is borderline reaction to the first Metro game. However, the ads are still playing on YouTube. The ads are still all over a bunch of places. So at least Epic is putting an effort to make this stuff work, and they're not letting up. So,
well, then that leads to the other side of this, which is why are the developers agreeing to this? And it would just appear that Epic is offering them deals they can't refuse.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is one area, like the crowdfunding of Phoenix Point, for example, probably did help them out in the sense that they caught the attention of Epic. And it's likely they wouldn't have if they didn't have so much community support behind them.
Mm-hmm. Well, plus it's a very underserved genre of game.
Right.
The whole like turn-based tactical thing. It's extremely underserved at the moment, and what you can find in various places is not a true representation of the art form. I really wish that somebody would just, help us become a mega company so that I can do a proper remake of Jagged Alliance 2. Not a remake, a continuation. I hate generalized remakes. Remakes are dumb. To make an actual like proper sequel,
like a reboot
for the Jagged Alliance game,
like a sequel.
Not a reboot. No, just a sequel that's done right. Like they did a reboot which was trash, and then they did another reboot which was also trash, and then they tried to do this stupid mobile browser game which was even worse trash, and they even said, "Hey, look, we understand that it's got a bad rap, but we feel that this platform of browser-based games is going to do well." It's like, what trash. But yeah, seriously, this is stuff that like any passionate fan can look at and say this was handled poorly. Mm-hmm. Like just poorly in general. You can argue the merits of whether or not they thought that what they were doing was going to sell more copies, or whether they thought the isometric turn-based content was actually a dead genre or not. Try to make problems, mm-hmm. tons and tons of problems.
Well, in addition to all this, the lead designer / creator of XCOM did an AMA recently that answered some questions about this. So it would be only fair to look at his responses to some of the questions about this. And what he went on to explain is that the deal with Epic allows the studio to commit more to the launch, as well as enabling it to support the game more immediately after launch, which, I mean, lines up with the idea that they're getting more money from Epic than they were getting from their crowdfunding. Ultimately, he says it will result in a better game, and one that gets post-launch additions sooner. So let's assume for the moment that that's true. It's going to be a better game that you can only get on a storefront that a lot of people hate and a lot of people are boycotting. Is that really a good business decision? I mean, we could debate that about Metro too. We talked about it a little bit on Tuesday, I believe. Is the money that they got from their deal with Epic, is that making up for the lack of sales that they undoubtedly have experienced by being exclusive to the Epic Store? We don't know at this point. We can only speculate. But what do you think, Simon? Is this a good business decision for them, or is this something that's going to hurt them in the long run financially?
So I'll tell you what other analysts will tell them. And other analysts will say this. Look, you're going to get a lot of bad press for this, but the money itself is going to set that aside. It's going to give you the guarantee to work on your next project. And that this money for this current project is going to save your butt and is going to make it so that you have job security. By the time you work and put out your second product, people will have forgotten about this for the most part. People will move on. It could be that, Epic will have become one of the best platforms out there to buy games on, or it will have crashed completely. In either case, you're sitting there with a critically and reviewed product that is positive, generally speaking, because it will be if they make a game that's decent. Like Metro is a good example of this. Metro is reviewed for the most part fairly decently. If you take away all of the Epic Store problems, it's a pretty decent game in general. However, that said, if they move past that and say, well, what about our next project? Well, that's a couple of years down the road. By then, a lot of people will have forgotten about it. You got to remember with gaming that there's a lot of gamers, a lot of the core people that are really upset are people in their, between the 15 to 21, 22 category, right? These are the people that are upset, but by the time you make your next game, most of them will have moved on, and your next set of buyers is the next generation, and they might not remember this, and they might just say, hey, this is really cool, and jump into it full, all the way. And by then, all you've done is basically secured yourself job security. So that's what that boils down to. And a lot of these studios, a lot of these people who they scrimp, they save, they work from basically paycheck to paycheck. Being offered job security for the next few years so that you can really work on a dedicated project that you're interested in, that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually not that much money. It's not that much money for Epic to say, how much do you need? Like $4 million?
Well, they're sitting on that Fortnite money.
We'll get our core team through the next, the whole next transition in the next game. Okay. Cool. Here's 4 million bonus on top of the other deal that we were giving you. So if everything goes crap sideways, you at least have job security for the next few years. That's a pretty good deal. That is a really good deal for a lot of people. So, yeah, that's what that boils down to. So is it a good PR move? For some of them, yes. For others, not so much maybe. But that's yet to be seen. And overall, I have to point this out, overall, it's from a purely selfish point of view, it's always a good deal to make. This is always a good deal to make. You look at EA, for example. Worst company ever. Well, aside from the companies that have actually actively killed, people. One of the worst companies in modern history. Let's go with that. They go out of their way to screw over gamers as much as possible, to take what they love and to destroy it, and to replace it with McDonald's, basically. Just preformed, prefabricated, design stuff meant to squeeze every ounce of blood from you that they could possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
That's their goal. That's what they've designed themselves to be.
I've had an epiphany. Loot
how
box condiments.
Are the CEOs? Yeah. How are the CEOs? How are the people in the positions of power? How are those decision makers? How are they doing today? Well, one of them just left the company with a $23 million bonus. It's like he made one of the worst games of this generation, and he walked out with over $20 million in a bonus. So just let that sink into you. And know that when you find a developer who's honest, who's willing to communicate, who's willing to work towards the best interests of you, the consumer, support that person as much as you can. Because the level of insanity, the level of stupidity can keep getting worse. So just remember that.
Yeah. We need Cyberpunk. We need the Outer Worlds. And I've been very impressed with Devolver Digital lately. That is,
And I've been really impressed with the way that Microsoft has turned over their new leaf. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. They have made a solid progression towards the right stuff. So we talked a little bit about it before, but there's this deal that they've been working out where they're working with Steam very closely. This is a huge game changer. This is absolutely massive. Did we talk about this on Tuesday?
on Tuesday? No, we did not.
We did.
You and I talked about it, I think, a couple days ago.
Yeah. So, huge news. Microsoft is... I'm looking at the wrong chat here. Microsoft is getting really cozy with Steam right now. Really juicy stuff here. Totally forgot to put this on the thumbnail and on the title here. This is a good thing. They are trying to intersect connecting the Microsoft Store with Steam, and get this. This is something that you will not hear anywhere else. There are rumors going around right now in high-level positions with very particular people that there seems to be a deal that they're trying to work out. They've been apparently working on this just recently. In the last 2 recent years. I don't know I don't know the details on it. I know that they've been looking at it for a while now. And that originally it was just kind of this early stage concept stuff, but is moving more and more towards something that they're actively trying to work on, and that recent moves from Microsoft are telegraphing that this is going to be a thing. Get ready to have your pants blown off, guys and ladies. It's way more awesome for the ladies, by the way. So there is
I'm still trying to process that.
Strong evidence to forecast that what we are going to see within the next few years, possibly the next generation, starting with the new console, maybe a little bit after that, maybe a little bit down the road, maybe with a different sub-console class, we are looking at Microsoft integrating the Xbox and the Xbox console systems to be able to host the Steam store. Oh my god.
That would be a massive game changer. The only thing that I could see happening that would be more of a game changer than that would be if Nintendo opened their products up to PC players.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is something that is shocking, because you're going to say, now hold on. In order to run a lot of Steam games, you need a mouse and keyboard. Remember when Microsoft said that they were working on a mouse and keyboard for the Xbox? Remember that? Well, now it makes a whole lot more sense when you look at it and say, hey, didn't Steam try to make basically their own console a little while ago, and they ran into a lot of technical and hardware issues? Gee, if there was only, say, a giant company that made consoles, that made really powerful consoles, that, say, needed a gigantic influx of content in games for people to play on said consoles. Now, what do you think about that?
Well,
put that together with everything else that we kind of know what they've been working on and what they've been doing. Add that to what I'm saying right now. Looky here, there's a perfect match made. Steam wants to get into the console business, and tried and failed. They kind of they tried to do their Steam machine, and it did not go over very well. Now, that's not something that they want to walk away from. They want to. They still want to get into this. This is still a dream. This is still one of the core concepts that Gabe has always wanted to do. Now they look at Microsoft, they look at how they're improving, they look at how they're working, they look at how they're holding out their hand, trying to make new friends, trying to say, look, the most important thing here is the gamers and their gameplay experiences. Being good companies, and we believe this. We honestly believe this now. We made a mistake in the last console. We made a mistake with how we tried to run the Windows Store. We realize the mistake, and what we're pushing for now is to be a lot more open and to put out games, to put out content that's a lot more accessible. You look at the Japanese market, you look at the Asian market, and all of the issues that they've run into, but a lot of them have found a home on Steam. However, there's still a lot of console users. So suddenly, if you're able to tell your small but dedicated community of 100,000 or less people who always have bought your game in the past, that's kept you afloat, that you're not able to sell those games on Sony anymore, at least not in the way that you were able to. Now a new console walks in and says, hey, you can get all of the benefits of what you used to get through releasing on PlayStation. You can get by placing your game not only on the Xbox market, but also on the Steam market, and make that accessible to everybody. Now, this is something that everybody who is in these positions where they needed this moment to come, this is honestly now at the forefront. And Notional and a few other people are asking, why this sounds dumb. Why would you do this? Because it's about control and it's about branding. It's about getting your products into the hands of the most amount of people that you possibly can. It's about trying to stop a runaway giant called Sony, who is now starting to do things like censorship and control and a bunch of other stuff that 6 years ago most of us would have gone, no, they're the good guys, they're the underdog. Well, they went from underdog to overlord really fast. And Microsoft is one of these companies that they're not like, Apple, you have Apple CEO saying, yeah, we want to control what people think and say. Microsoft is not like that. I don't think Steve Jobs was ever like that either. I don't think that was ever something that he embraced. But now you have one company saying it. So now the other company is taking up kind of the counter stance to this, saying, no. We want free. We realize that we make the most money when we make our content the normal thing, the thing that everybody can get to. If you're on an Xbox, if you're on a PC, if you're on a laptop, or if you're on a tablet, if you can connect to our store or our combination store of both Steam and Microsoft Store at the same time, and you can get whatever you want, boom, done. Well, Microsoft tried to they tried to do their own mobile phone and iOS and their operating system, and it just completely fell apart. They've realized that they will run into the wall when trying to do this. So right now, what they've discovered is that, hey, working with other people, working with especially indie developers, this takes us back to what Windows was originally built on. And again, what Steve Jobs said, remember, Steve Jobs said, when you have people who innovate at the forefront of the company will do well. When you have salespeople at the forefront of the company, your company will lose the knack for innovation, and you will start to stagnate. This is core stuff, guys. Right. This is the concept that runs these companies. And what's going on right now is that Microsoft is realizing, hey, if we want to get back onto number one, and if we want to stay there, we've got to embrace Steam, we've got to embrace PC games, we've got to embrace indie developers in a way that we've never embraced them before. What's the one thing we can do with this? What's the one thing that we can offer Steam that Steam's wanted for a really long time? And that's a guarantee that they're not buying Steam out. I can't make this clear enough. They haven't, nor have they expressed an interest to buy Steam out. What they're doing is a partnership that helps to cement both of their positions in a healthy, productive way.
To answer
helps both of them.
Yeah, to answer Notional's next comment here, as looking at it from the perspective of the console market, I think it's a big plus to say, if you buy an Xbox, you not only get all these Xbox games, but you get access to the entire Steam library. If you had that in your, accessible in your living room on your console. I own a Steam Link because I don't always want to be in my basement at my desk when I'm gaming. I sometimes want to crash on my couch and game in my living room. But all my games are PC games. I don't have a console. Not really interested in console gaming, buying a console just for that. But I bought a Steam Link so that I could play, my Steam games, at least the ones that work well with controllers, in my living room. Hang out with my wife while I'm, doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If the Xbox came with that, so I can access my entire Steam library, plus maybe some other Xbox exclusive games,
then it would be a whole lot easier for you to... You would then say, you know what? Maybe I will go pick up a console, and that way the kids can play something while I'm working on other things.
Mm-hmm.
And it just gives us that added ability to cross over our tech. I can take my game from PC. I'm sitting here on my PC. I'm playing the game. Just gonna cloud save this for 1 second. I'm going to turn off my PC. I'm going to walk upstairs and turn on my Xbox and continue my game there. Oh my goodness. Just do the math, guys.
That's a massive quality of life thing that I'd definitely be into. And so if it came down to, okay, which console am I going to buy? PlayStation or Xbox?
And the most beautiful thing about this is this isn't a giant company, a giant organization just gobbling up smaller people and formulating everything. No, that's the beauty of this. This is still meritocracy at its best. This is still the best games on Steam getting there and holding their position because the community likes them, because they're good games that offer good content. And now you're increasing the audience by you're in some cases you're doubling the audience for the potential of certain of these products.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly what both of these companies need. Epic is a sizable competition now to Steam. Steam needs to do something radical to pull ahead. What's the most radical thing that they could do? Incorporate half of the console market into accessing their platform. That alone would mean that they could keep their share, their financial profit split exactly where it is. Because what you'd be doing, what you're telling everybody who has a game on Steam right now, what you're telling all those developers and all those companies and all those publishers, hey, we're about to almost double our audience by getting our system out onto the Microsoft Store through the next Xbox. Now do you want to stay with us instead of going to Epic? I think a lot of people would suddenly go, wow, that's a great idea. That's a really good idea.
Yep. All right.
And Bluntman, you are absolutely right. This has been something that a lot of us have in the industry have been saying, why isn't this a thing yet? Mm-hmm. And now we see that things are moving. Now things are moving. This is not guaranteed, but do not be surprised if this is the story. And do not be shocked if this is one of the key things that is dropped this year at E3. If Gabe walks out onto the stage and he says, we're here to announce the biggest change to Steam that we've ever had, and that is we are putting our games onto the Microsoft Store. All of your current library is going to be able to be moved over on and played on your device seamlessly. So basically, you line up your games, you line up whatever you want. There's some other stuff. There's a lot of stuff here, and we don't have time to go into all of it. They're also working on streaming games from platforms and all this other stuff. There's a ton of stuff going on here. The expected console Lite, where it's a tiny little box that just allows you to hook up a controller, and basically you're playing games on a streaming service. Okay, that's coming too.
Right. And
both Microsoft and Steam are working on early concepts. We know that this has been something that they've been working on for a really long time. This news first came like 8 years ago that they were working on this tech. You could do this originally. I think one of the first big games that you could actually do this on was Terra. You could play Terra through a browser. It wasn't loading it through the browser. It was just streaming the game to the browser. It was really cool. Anyways.
Yeah.
The key to this is, I know we're running late. The key to this is that this is a big change, and this is coming. Do not be shocked if you see it this year. We might not see it this summer, but we're definitely going to see it within the next year or two, because this is too good of an opportunity for both of them to pass up. And both companies are in the position where they need this. Both companies are in a position where they want this, and both companies are in a position where they know that this is going to make gamers happy. There's no way they're not going to do this.
I don't see a downside as far as consumers are concerned. Mm-hmm. We are running a little short on time, but
that is why you listen to the Triple S League, because we have info on this stuff that nobody else carries. Other people carry. It's just they're usually late to it. Like the whole Cyberpunk at E3 thing. So
let's just talk briefly about Borderlands 3. Meriden brought this up just a couple minutes ago. We touched on this briefly on Tuesday. There was a teaser image posted that a lot of people are interpreting as meaning that we are going to be seeing something on Borderlands 3 at PAX East.
That is now confirmed. We have that and possibly a tease, although don't count this. They're also working on another project that they appear to be teasing as well. So there's more content to be had on this stuff, and there's more stuff coming on this. This is going to be really interesting. We are going to respond live, of course, to this when this happens at PAX East. So pay attention to that. But yes, we're and again, another thing that we called months ago, weeks before anybody even mentioned it. We said the game is being localized. It is going to be released in this fiscal year, the fiscal year that we are currently in, not at the time when we reported on it, because that was before the fiscal year. The game is coming out. It's going to be awesome, and it's probably going to drop in the fall. So I wouldn't. The remake rumors have been around for a while. Don't necessarily jump at those, although that is something that I would say is up in the air at the moment. It's one of those games that you don't technically need that much of a remake for. So
it still holds up. I was playing it not too long ago. It still holds up.
So as far as the new game, there's going to be some new features added to Borderlands 3. Is going to blow your socks off. It may not come in the fall. It may come early next year. The fiscal year runs from like spring to the following spring of the next year. So basically, it's like it can come anywhere between like the next 12 months. I don't have info leaning on an exact release date. I would anticipate probably closer to the fall. At the moment, just based off of everything that have been kind of putting together, but it's no guarantee, because they've also been really, really interested in throwing out disinformation as well, and they've also been really interested in finding out who our sources are.
We had Randy Pitchford was up on Twitter this week, going on about all we're saying is we're going to be there at PAX East. Everything else is speculation, trying to throw some cold water on the whole situation. But whenever he does that, I always assume that we are looking in the right direction. All right. This has been the Augmented Reality Podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Thank you for being so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation after going to live broadcast, going after the live broadcast, I'm getting my words in the wrong order. As I said earlier, definitely join the Discord. Join our Discord server. We have got the link to that in the description below. I want to thank our Patreon supporters, Old Man Manson, and our 2 anonymous supporters, our channel member, Captain Dammit, and all of you for listening and supporting this show. Don't forget to slam that like button and subscribe if you appreciate this content. And if you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Spotify, we thank you for following, liking us, and rating the show there. Feel free to join us on Tuesday for the live show at noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, where you can interact with us and other listeners and be part of the discussion. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash Anonymity. On behalf of Cybsidian, thank you all so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.